The deindustrialization of America. The United States is rapidly becoming the first post-industrial nation on the globe. All great economic empires eventually become fat and lazy and squander the great wealth that their forefathers have left them. But the pace at which America is accomplishing this is absolutely amazing. It was America that was at the forefront of the Industrial Revolution. It was America that showed the world how to mass produce everything from automobiles to televisions to airplanes. It was the great American manufacturing base that crushed Germany and Japan in World War II. But now we are witnessing the deindustrialization of America. Tens of thousands of factories have left the United States in the past decade alone. Millions upon millions of manufacturing jobs have been lost in the same period. The United States has become a nation that consumes everything in sight and yet produces increasingly little. Do you know what our biggest export is today? Waste paper. Yes, trash is the #1 thing that we ship out to the rest of the world as we voraciously blow our money on whatever the rest of the world wants to sell us. A lot of snowmobiles out there today. That's good. The United States has become bloated and spoiled, and our economy is now just a shadow of what it once was. Once upon a time, America could literally outproduce the rest of the world combined. Today, that is no longer true, but Americans sure do consume more than anyone else in the world. If the deindustrialization of America continues at this current pace, what possible kind of future are we going to be leaving to our children? Any great nation throughout history has been great at making things. So if the United States continues to allow its manufacturing base to erode at the present staggering pace, how in the world can the U.S. continue to consider itself to be a great nation? We have credited the biggest debt bubble in the history of the world in an effort to maintain a very high standard of living. But the current state of affairs is not anywhere close to sustainable. Every single month, America goes into more debt, and every single month, America gets poorer. So what happens when the debt bubble pops? The deindustrialization of the United States should be a top concern for every man, woman, and child in the country. But sadly, most Americans do not have any idea what is going on around them. The following are 19 facts about the deindustrialization of America that demonstrate how rapidly we are in decline. Fact 1. The United States has lost approximately 42,400 factories since 2001. About 75% of those factories employed over 500 people when they were still in operation. Fact 2. Dell Incorporated, one of America's largest manufacturers of computers, has announced plans to dramatically expand its operations in China. It will be making an investment estimated to be over $100 billion during the next decade. Fact 3. Dell closed its last large U.S. manufacturing facility in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, this past November. Approximately 900 jobs were lost. Fact 4. In 2008, 1.2 billion cell phones were sold worldwide. So how many of them were manufactured inside the United States? 0. According to a new study conducted by the Economic Policy Institute, if the U.S. trade deficit with China continues to increase at its current rate, the U.S. economy will lose over 500,000 jobs this year alone. Fact 6. As of the end of July, the U.S. trade deficit with China had risen 18% compared to the same period a year ago. Fact 7. The United States has lost a total of about 5.5 million manufacturing jobs since October 2000. Fact 8. According to tax notes, between 1999 and 2008, employment at the foreign affiliates of U.S. parent companies increased an astounding 30% to 10.1 million. During that exact same time period, U.S. employment at American multinational corporations declined 8% to 21.1 million. Fact 9. In 1959, manufacturing represented 28% of U.S. economic output. In 2008, it represented 11.5%. Fact 10. Ford Motor Company recently announced the closure of a factory that produces the Ford Ranger in St. Paul, Minnesota. Approximately 750 good-paying middle-class jobs are going to be lost because making Ford Rangers in Minnesota does not fit in with Ford's new global manufacturing strategy. Fact 11. As of the end of 2009, less than 12 million Americans worked in manufacturing. The last time less than 12 million Americans were employed in manufacturing was in 1941. Fact 12. In the United States today, consumption accounts for 70% of GDP. Of this 70%, over half is spent on services. Fact 13. The United States has lost a whopping 32% of its manufacturing jobs since the year 2000. Fact 14. Fact 14. In 2001, the United States ranked 4th in the world in per capita broadband internet use. Today it ranks 15th. Fact 15. Manufacturing employment in the U.S. computer industry is actually lower in 2010 than it was in 1975. Fact 16. Printed circuit boards are used in tens of thousands of different products. Asia now produces 84% of them worldwide. Fact 17. The United States spends approximately $3.90 on Chinese goods for every $1 that the Chinese spend on goods from the United States. Fact 18. One prominent economist is projecting that the Chinese economy will be 3 times larger than the U.S. economy by the year 2040. Fact 19. The U.S. Census Bureau says that 43.6 million Americans are now living in poverty, with 42.9 million on food stamps, and according to them, that is the highest number of poor Americans in the 51 years that records have been kept. So how many tens of thousands more factories do we need to lose before we do something about it? How many millions more Americans are going to become unemployed before we admit that we have a very, very serious problem on our hands? How many more trillions of dollars are going to leave the country before we realize that we are losing wealth at a pace that is killing our economy? How many once great manufacturing cities are going to become rotting war zones like Detroit before we understand that we are committing national economic suicide? The deindustrialization of America is a natural crisis. It needs to be treated like one. A few questions to ponder. Question: who will build our tanks, bombs, planes, etc. in the next Great War? The obvious answer is China, since they have the factories. But what if that war is with China? Would Japan or Germany have built our war machine for us during World War II? Do you think this could be a big problem? Question. What about our auto industry? It's still large, isn't it? Well, do your own personal research. Count the next 100, 200 cars you see and calculate what percentage are American made. And then remember that 70 to 80% of the parts in made in USA cars and trucks are manufactured abroad, and many of those made in USA vehicles are actually assembled in Mexico or elsewhere. Considering those facts, this writer would estimate that less than 50% of the cars and trucks on the road in America are actually made in the USA. Question. But aren't we still a service and high-tech economy? Well, not exactly. Tens of millions of service jobs, i.e. private sector and state and federal government, even U.S. Defense Department, have been outsourced over the past 15 years to India, the Philippines, and other third world countries, where wages are on average 90% less than in America. There are no unions, no benefits, and no business profit stifling regulations. These jobs will never return to America. Yes, there are still minimum wage service jobs at Starbucks, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Walmart, Costco, gas stations, restaurants, etc. But can America have a strong economy based on these? And what about our high technology? A record low number of American scientists and engineers are graduating from universities in the U.S. today, while tens of thousands of Chinese and other Asian engineers and scientists are graduating each year, many from American universities. In 1998, China produced about 20,000 research articles, but by 2006, China's high-tech research articles had reached 83,000, more than Germany, Japan, the U.S. combined. Our high technology is virtually all transferred to China via purchasing of U.S. factories in China, industrial espionage, or outright treasonous transfer, as Bill Clinton did with our top missile technology back in the 1990s. Is this how the Clintons' net worth rose in 20 years from near zero to 108 million in 2008, while on government salaries? Question. Can America be an economic power or a superpower when our economic might is now defined by Netflix, Apple, Google, Amazon, Walmart, Starbucks, McDonald's, CNN, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, high-frequency trading on Wall Street, hedge funds, Hollywood film sales, or the latest set of retail sale numbers? What do you think? And an editor's note. By the way, most of your friends, neighbors, business associates, and probably family members don't think deeply about anything, and that is why the bad guys are winning, why we are losing our country, and why most Americans are about to go broke. Regarding America's supposed economic strength and recovery, Bill King recently wrote, "The absurd notion that retail sales are a measure of U.S. economic strength is ridiculous. Wall Street shills and their stooges, the media, have relentlessly advocated the notion that U.S. gratuitous consumption is the best gauge of U.S. economic strength, and Netflix is an economic indicator." I'm going to call it quits on this one. I'll be back with Can the Fed Be Trusted? And other indicators of the Great American Decline. Peace. Ask yourself those questions.